Hey there, my name is Graham. In this video, I am going to explain vibe coding and no coding, and a third option that claims to combine the best of both worlds. We will walk through a real world example to illustrate this, and by the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to take the next step in transforming your business, whether it's vibe code or no code or both. Thanks for joining. Let's get into it. First, let's talk about vibe coding. You've probably heard of it. You define what you want in plain language, and then the AI, whether it's Cursor or Claude Code, takes your language and turns it into code, creating something that didn't exist before in the blink of an eye. Let's try it real quick in Claude Code. So I just recorded myself asking for a landing page. We'll use this example more in the future as we walk through other options, but it is generally just a work order management app that has technicians and clients and invoices in the navigation bar and a dashboard on the main screen. No need to build out other pages, just the home page. So I'm going to commit that and see what it builds. While we wait, let's define no code. No code, you're not so much writing new code, you're just moving existing, technically code, but you're moving existing blocks or components around on an interface. You're putting in values, you're mapping fields. All of that is predetermined for you to drag and drop and point and click. It is straightforward, it's easy, it can be a little tedious, but everything that you see is exactly what you get. It's where you get the name, what you see is what you get builders. Same thing goes for a what you see is what you get website. Now, you don't have to build anything from scratch. The scaffolding already exists, but at the same time, you might bump into the walls, maybe you hit the ceiling because what you want to build is a little bit more advanced or more custom. That's where our third tool comes into play. So before we explore that third tool, let's look at what Claude Code spit out. So what I'm looking at is a dashboard as I described with my plain language. It wasn't super scoped and I can't click on any other pages, but it's a nice visual and maybe a good prototype to build on top of. But whenever it comes to users and their visibility, the things that you want them to do and not do, see and not see, that's where things start to get a little bit complicated when it comes to vibe coding. User authentication, data security, and scaling become harder. You really have to bring in an expert who knows the front end and the back end of true code in order to make the most of a vibe coded app for scale. So back to our third option. Does it really leverage the best of no code? The security and stability, the scaffolding that gives us an opinion on how to build and what to build that can really help the process. And does it really leverage the best of vibe coding? The customization, the flexibility, the speed? Well, if you know exactly what you want to build, you might want to skip ahead. But if you're a business with an undefined problem, maybe you have particularly complex operations, maybe you have a dynamic team and you're thinking about the ripple effect of something like this on your whole operations, on your whole business, then this next part is for you. Your tools are only as good as the input that you give them. Whether you're vibe coding or building with no code, the tool doesn't matter as much as the predefined goal. In fact, if you don't have a predefined goal, vibe building or building with no code can actually waste a lot of time. So instead of using AI to spin up something that you think could work, instead consider using AI as a contrarian, maybe a scoping mechanism to help ask questions about the edge cases, about things you hadn't thought of, about different tools and how those things scale. That's why we offer a free scoping sprint to all clients, whether they decide to move forward or not. We deliver an assessment that tells you exactly how we would build it, based on years of successes and failures with vibe coding tools and no coding tools alike. So whether it's through AI or another human speaking into your situation, you have arrived at a fully scoped list of requirements that support your measurable business goal. You are letting your tools not define the goal, but your goals define the tools. And in this case, we get to explore a tool that brings the best of no code and vibe coding together. And that tool is called Softr. So Softr is a no-code platform, and like many other software platforms, especially no-code platforms, there's AI being introduced as a feature. But with Softr, you are able to develop a custom block. So Blocks that make up the interface are predetermined in traditional no-code fashion, but with Softr you can break through the ceiling, and if there's something super specific that you need to design, AI can do it for you. Let's see how it works. Whenever we open up Softr, we are invited to prompt and to build our app. But if you go back to that original question that I asked you earlier about having your goal already scoped out, the best move forward right now is to look at the templates. And after a little bit of clicking around, I can see that not only is there a project management app, but there is a work order management app. It seems to have home, work orders, staff, assets, locations, inventory, at least already pre-built in the template. So I'm going to use this and see what it spits out. So here we are inside the app, and I'm deciding if this is something that I think I can use for my use case. I can already click into records. I'm seeing overdue and unassigned work orders all on the home page. When I go to the work orders page, I'm seeing just a list. I can open it and see some details. It's nice to have all that configured. Whenever I go into the data, I see some pre-populated data. And yeah, this looks like something that I can work with. So I'm going to move forward with this template. But to be honest, it's a little bit bare, and I'd like to introduce a custom block. And to do that, I'm going to use the AI building feature. So after clicking into the edit view, I am going to add a new block. I see some predefined containers. These are the things that we were already talking about, but in the top I have AI, and it says that I can build a vibe coding block. Then a chat opens up on the right-hand side, and I can describe what I want. Ask to build or change something. So let's say this. Create something that helps technicians view the urgency and priority their respective work. AI can handle your typos. Here's what it came up with. I have high priority, medium priority, and low priority cards, and a list of longer rectangle cards below it that are not quite in order. They have a hover state, so the background changes slightly whenever my mouse goes over it, but I can't click into them like I can with this native block below, and I can't drag or drop, and whenever I go to edit, my options for editing what the AI came up with are pretty limited. Now, you might be watching me prompt this and be cringing, and I would understand if you were, because quite frankly, it was a weak prompt. That is what I'm talking about whenever I say that your outputs are as good as your inputs, especially when it comes to the vibe coding available in a no coding platform. Where that really shines is whenever you connect your data source and when you get hyper specific with a prompt. According to Softr, technique number 1 is specificity. It's the most important variable. It gave an example not unlike the vague prompt that I gave, and a better example of a specific prompt. Let's go ahead and get something like this running in our app. Instead of asking for something generally vague, I asked for each open work order in the work orders table show a horizontal urgency bar next to the job record. If the scheduled date is more than 2 days away, the bar is green. If it's within 2 days, the bar is yellow. The scheduled date has passed, the bar is red. Show the technician name, job type, and property address alongside each bar. Sort the list with red items at the top. I'm going to go ahead and do a new block for that. And I'm also going to connect a data source. So clicking through to what I know is our data, I'm going to see what it comes up with. After being specific, Softr encourages us to use the content controls instead of reprompting. So in traditional vibe coding, in order to make changes, you have to describe those changes in your plain language, even if it's something as simple as changing the text or misspelling something or respelling something. With Softr, you're not only able just to edit the text, you can edit the images, icons, colors, accent values, repeating sections, visibility. All of that is the click, drag, and drop that we've been talking about with no code. It's available for the vibe coded block that you design on your own. You can even incorporate screenshots or images to inspire the build. If you like the layout or the design of another app or something that you created with a vibe coding platform like we saw in the very beginning, you can screenshot that and give it to Softr and see what it comes up with. You can even reference open source component libraries. That's the same as the buttons and the icons. So ShadeCN, Radix, layers, all of these are given as examples that Softr has access to. So at the very end here is how Softr encourages encourages us to use their vibe building block. 1. Define the behavior before the aesthetic, what it needs to do before what it looks like. 2. Write a detailed prompt. 3. Attach a visual reference. 4. Preview and test the core behavior before iterating. 5. Use atomic follow-up prompts instead of trying to edit a lot of things in one big mega prompt. Target certain things and go from there. Number 6, surface variables as content controls for anything you or your team will adjust frequently. So bringing those content controls that we discussed earlier to the user interface. And number 7, edit the code directly if you absolutely need to. It gives you access to the source code that it wrote for you. Remember, Softr's Vibe Builder is writing actual code for you in the no-code platform. Now let's go see what the Vibe Builder built with our specific prompt. Okay, so we have cards that have different colors. Some are overdue, some have yellow, and some have green, depending on their due date. This is all data that relates to our actual data in our database. Whenever I go to the work orders table, I see the due date, and that seems to line up with what was being shown on the interface. It may not look exactly as we want, but based on those instructions that we just reviewed, we can edit the content and reprompt to maybe add some organization to these cards, maybe only show ones that are overdue, or allow the user to sort through, or only view things that relate to them. Now, this has been the AI block in action, and it is not Claude Code or Cursor. It is not going to make your wildest dreams come true or inspire you. It might, but based on what we've seen, it requires a little bit more strategy in how you use, and still you can't quite escape the technical expertise that's required for no code. Because when it comes to no code versus vibe code in an app like this, no code shines whenever you need to point to something and say, that is why this exists. For example, a user having access to something or changing roles needs to be able to be viewed and managed as opposed to prompted or unprompted or reprompted by a vibe builder. I would want to be able to go in and see my team and see their titles and see their access. When it comes to workflows, I like to know what happens when, and if this, then that. Having a diagram is extremely helpful. This page brings us to our integrations. And when it comes to no code and integrations, the ability to access an existing database, something like Airtable or Google Sheets, where our data is already living instead of having to migrate it. On top of that, Softr can actually access multiple databases in one single page. So these blocks that we were looking at can actually reference different data sources. The invoices page can reference a Google Sheets database, for example, whereas the work orders page might need to reference a Airtable database, where all of that operation is managed. The power of no code exists in the visibility and within the opinions. And these platforms have opinions of security and stability and scale. They have opinions on seeing your data and being able to manage and edit it. Vibe coding allows you to build fast and flexibly, but doesn't offer you that same ability to manage and organize and operate as you might want to as a business owner. So let's recap. We covered vibe coding and no coding, where each one shines and where it struggles. We walked through a third option, a no-code platform called Softr that has vibe building features built in, allowing you to create custom elements whenever the existing native blocks don't quite fit your unique needs. Building with no code gives you a stable, secure, and scalable option for building something custom for your business. Vibe coding is flexible and fast and fun. The sky's the limit. But whenever it comes to building something especially complex or something that a large team needs to use, something that might even need to scale and elevate the entire business, AI and vibe building hits its ceiling. Before you use either or both of these tools through a tool like Softr, it's worth asking and defining your scope, your goal, the measurable outcome that's on the other side of your project. All of that can be boiled down into one single question. How well do you know what you want to build? Your answer is going to show up in what you're building, whether you like it or not. It's going to show up today, and if not today, then tomorrow. So it's worth asking that question now, because the work exists on the front end or on the back end. Once you have that information, that's why these tools exist, to help you and I build what really moves the needle for our organization. If you're interested in learning more about no-code tools, stick around for the next video where we compare the top 3 tools for building a client portal. Good luck building. Thanks for joining. I'll see you next time.